Hi guys, and welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. Now, who fancies making Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer? I love Christmas, as you can probably tell with all of these Christmas tutorials. I show you how to make this beauty step by step. Perfect for your Christmas fruit cakes. These antlers are completely edible. There's no wires or anything like that in there. It's made with chocolate fondant. It's absolutely delicious. Give it a try, guys, and please remember, if you like what you see, do subscribe to the channel, share the tutorial, and stay tuned because there'll be an awful lot more new content coming your way very soon. Happy baking, everybody, and let's make a start. To make this adorable Christmas Rudolph themed cake, you are going to need the following. Now, the main colours I'm choosing to cover my cake in is the beautiful Renshaws Turquoise Blue. To cover a 6-inch round cake that's roughly 4-inch deep, you're going to need about 600 gram. So I've got 3 packets here. Obviously, for the purpose of this tutorial, I am choosing to use a cake dummy. I'm also going to be using the Poppy Red by Renshaws, and again this lovely chocolate flavoured fondant, also by Renshaws. And you're also going to need some white fondant. We are going to be colouring some of the white black, but only a very, very tiny amount of it. And obviously, if you want to cover your cake drum, you're going to need some extra. So what tools and equipment do I have here? I like to keep everything very basic if I can. You're going to want some round circle cutters. I'm choosing today to use the snowflake plunger cutters. They're very, very easy to use and very versatile. Some cake smoothers, a rolling pin, and just down here I have got a very, very sharp scalpel, a ball tool and a Dresden tool. Finally, we are going to be turning a very, very small amount of the chocolate flavoured fondant into modelling paste. And to do this, you will need some Tylo powder, or you can use gum trag, whatever you prefer. So let's make a start. All I have done here is taken all 3 packets of the Renshaws Turquoise Blue and given it a little knead. We're not going to need it all, there will be some left over. Obviously, I'm working with a cake dummy. If you're covering a fruit cake, I would firstly advise that you do it on baking parchment. So obviously your fruit cake's already covered with marzipan, and then it needs a layer of fondant. I have a lovely fruit cake recipe tutorial, which I will leave in the description below this video, that will bake you the perfect 6-inch round fruit cake. I also have a separate tutorial on how to cover it with marzipan so you're not levelling anything off and you're keeping all of that fruit cake together. If you're not doing a fruit cake and you're doing a Victoria sponge, a Madeira, a chocolate cake that needs crumb coating and having the fillings of your choice, I would advise that you leave it in the fridge, crumb coated, let it set, make sure it's on baking parchment, and that's when you then take it out of the fridge and do this part. The buttercream will act as a natural glue for you, and then you will leave it to set before you add it onto your decorated cake drum if you choose to have one. So all I'm going to do with this is simply place some icing sugar on my work surface, and you want to start rolling it out. If you're wondering what these are, if you've never watched any of my tutorials, these are called spacers. Now, they're not a necessity, you do not have to use them, but they are exactly 5 millimeters thick. It just means that when I'm rolling this out, once I get down to the spacers, it keeps all of my fondant lovely and even. So just roll out your fondant like so. Once you have rolled it out, you then want to use your rolling pin, lift over the fondant. You'll find it a lot easier this way. Now I'm going to have to hold this cake dummy in place because there's no weight to it. You won't have this issue with a cake. Try and make sure when you place it on there it's central. If not, just do what I'm doing here and lift and move. And then simply negotiate all of the pleats. Then you want to simply take your smoothers and go around the sides of the cake. Once you have done that, you will have made a rim around the base of the cake. You then simply want to take a sharp knife and you will be able to cut off any excess fondant. What we're going to do now, before we actually start to decorate our cake, is apply it to the cake drum. I just want to show you what I've done to the cake drum. I've used 750 grams of white fondant firstly to cover the drum. That will cover a 12-inch round drum perfectly. But can you see all those lovely indentations? It's very, very simple to do. If you choose to do this, all you need is one of the plunger cutters. Like I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial, you'll literally gently push it into the fondant, push down the plunger and make sure when you pull it away, you haven't actually cut away any of the fondant, and it will leave you with this lovely, very simple but very striking effect. A little note about applying cakes to your drums. If it is a fruit cake, you just want to leave the fondant to set or to go hard. If you place it in a fridge, it will not damage the fruit cake, it will not hurt the fruit cake, but your fondant will go lovely and hard, which means when you peel it away from this baking parchment, you're not going to leave any finger marks in there, and you will literally be able to touch it on both sides and place it onto your decorated cake drum. That's one tip. Yes, it will sweat, but that's completely normal. It is only condensation and it will soon dry out. If it's a Victoria sponge, a chocolate cake or a Madeira, then you have to leave it in the fridge. Let all of that buttercream inside or ganache go really hard. All of your fondant go really hard. Take it off and then place it on the drum. Let it sweat and let the fondant dry. The fondant will not dry whilst it is in the fridge, because as soon as you take it out, it's just going to end up with loads of condensation on it. Whilst it's in the fridge, what is happening is it's going to be really, really hard instead. If you put a small piece of fondant in your fridge just to test it and take it out and compare it to some fondant that you've left at room temperature, you'll notice the difference. In my case, I'm just working with a dummy. So obviously, due to the weight, which is practically non-existent, it's very, very, very light. I'm just going to try and get this as central as possible. We're now going to start decorating our cake. However, the first thing I want to show you how to make are the antlers, because these need time to set, and whilst they are setting, we can start constructing Rudolph's face. In effect, the antlers are extremely easy to make. You just have to be very patient. So I've taken a full packet of the chocolate flavoured Renshaws fondant, and I have added 1 teaspoon of Tylo powder. To turn this into modelling paste, all you need to do is knead in this powder. As soon as you've finished kneading that in, this is technically modelling paste now, and it will set lovely and hard once it's left. I want my antlers to be relatively even, so I'm just rolling that into a sausage shape and cutting it in half. We're going to do one at a time. Now, you can do these different ways. If you want to, you can either roll out the modelling paste, and then you can use a very sharp scalpel and cut out your own antler shape. But I want to do mine slightly differently, and to support it I'm going to be using cocktail sticks and inside spaghetti. So I'm going to start by rolling this into a much longer sausage shape. I think that's long enough for now. And then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut straight through that chocolate. And now, using my hands, you want it relatively smooth like, but remember it is an antler. You're literally just going to use your hands to shape everything if you choose to do it the way I'm doing it. So I have a cocktail stick. That's going to be what goes into the top of our cake. So you want the bottom of this antler to be relatively smooth so it can rest nicely and sink into that fondant just on the top. Now, spaghetti is used an awful lot in cake decorating because it's 100% edible, so if the children decide to eat it, they can. But just to give some of these that little bit of extra support, spaghetti is what you want to use. You literally just want to be pushing it into each antler, tidying it up a little just on the top where you have pushed in that spaghetti. Obviously with some of these it's going to be slightly different, so that part just there is not going to need as much support as this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go in at an angle and make sure that it's this part that is actually supported. Because when this goes lovely and hard, there's not actually that much weight just there. So you need to take all of that into consideration and it avoids things from breaking. Place it in the oven with the oven light on and your antler will set an awful lot faster. All I'm going to do is repeat that process with the other half of my modelling paste. I want them to look different but relatively the same. I need to make sure they're the same height, so I'm going to make them alongside each other. Place them to one side and then we're going to start decorating that cake whilst these antlers have time to set. What we're going to do now is we're going to start creating Rudolph's face. We're going to do it on here and then apply it to the cake. So I've taken a very small amount of the chocolate flavoured fondant and you just want to place some icing sugar on your surface and roll this out. You then want to take a large circle cut, and you'll notice I've covered this in cling film. You'll understand why in a moment. Simply place this into your chocolate fondant and pull the rest away. And it leaves it, if I just hold this up, with a much smoother finish just down the sides like so. Now, because that's the large cutter, this is going to be where his mouth is going to go. So with this slightly smaller circle cutter, I'm just going to repeat that process. Okay, so that is what you're wanting to achieve. Then, taking the larger cutter again, we are going to cut into these circles. Again, we're going to take them off. Now, instead of using a cutter for this, I just want to cut them in more of a straight line. So that's when you want your scalpel. So this part is freehand, but you're not really doing much. You're just cutting away. If you do one side first, just using my Dresden tool, I just want to neaten up this line that I have in the centre. Again, really simple shapes. And before we apply this to our cake, I'm just going to push those side bits in a bit more. The eyes will be going here, but I want to just add an indentation for the mouth. We've got a big area here for the nose, remember, which we'll be adding once it's on the cake. So I'm thinking around this area. And if you just use your cutter, obviously don't go all the way through, but it will give you a lovely indentation for you. Just added a few more indentations there that you've just seen me add. I'm going to shape it a bit more so it's less circle-like, but the circles have helped me get that right shape. For the eyes, again, we're using very simple shapes. So you want to start with a small amount of white fondant and you're going to roll this into more of an oval shape. I've worked on the eyes a little bit more and made them more symmetrical. Now I've chosen to steam the side of my cake. If you don't have a steamer, you can just put some edible glue on the back of Rudolph. You then just want to pick him up. Remember, he's in parts. What I think I'm going to do for this, I'm going to do the mouth first. That's what you're aiming to achieve. Really simple shapes, and now we're going to add the finishing touches. Now the first thing I've got to apply, just because it's really been bugging me, is the nose. So I've taken a small amount of our Poppy Red fondant and rolled it into a ball. Tiny amount of edible glue. Another very simple technique to finish the mouth off, taking a small amount of the black fondant. Fill this guide that you have made with some edible glue. Roll it into a sausage-like shape that's a bit like a mouth, so you've got it thinner at both ends and thicker in the middle. Place it on there. Obviously it's not going to fill in all of the gaps just yet. But that's when you just grab your ball tool and make it so it does fill in the gaps. Rolled into a ball. Make it more of an oval shape to start off with. Some edible glue in the centre just on top of the black fondant. The heart wants to be coming just over here, so what I plan on doing is rolling a very long sausage shape. So it's going to be going over like that. Doesn't look like a hat just yet, but it kind of does. I haven't placed on any edible glue, it's quite sticky now. This part of the hat that's going onto the cake wants to be quite wide. It is going to have a rim on there. Try and keep the top smooth. Perfect, and as your fondant dries, this will just go lovely and hard. For the rest of the hat, just to finish it off, you literally want to get some white fondant, very small amounts, some edible glue that we're going to place around the rim of the hat. Now you may have seen me use this method before, and I will finish it off camera. That is what you are aiming to achieve. Now you'll notice I've already done one ear just here. To do this, you just want to get a small amount of your chocolate fondant. I'm just going to put a bit of icing sugar on there because it's slightly sticky. And you will literally just want to push this down. Keep it as simple a shape as possible. We want a nice, smooth kind of ear. And then just place it into position. You can manipulate it whilst it's on there. So for the snow effect, again, just rolling out some very small balls of white fondant and dotting them all around the cake. Really, really simple but extremely effective. If I just do another one further down here, the camera's not picking that up very well. I'll just pop that there. I have steamed this cake, that is why they are sticking on no problem. At the beginning of this tutorial, if you remember, using the plunger cutters that I used to decorate the board, if you just roll out, if I just zoom out for you, you can see what I have here. Roll out some fondant, using your finger on the back, just rub, just like so, just to get rid of any excess. And I'm going to plunge this directly onto the cake. So I'm just going to zoom back in for you now. And you literally just plunge it on. Add a little bit of pressure so you get some of the indentation. And I'm going to continue to decorate this cake with different size snowflakes. And I'm also going to be rolling out lots of these little balls of fondant and just sticking them on there to look like snow. So this is the sort of effect that you're wanting to achieve all the way around the outside of your cake. All we need to do now is add these adorable antlers. Now if I just lift one up and tap it, if it's making that noise, it's set beautifully. Taking a small amount of edible glue, I've already placed some holes in here using a cocktail stick, just so I know where to put the antlers, just because I'm working on a cake dummy. In a cake, these will go an awful lot easier, but on a cake dummy, all that polystyrene, I've had to make a hole first. And then you just take each antler. Push it into your fondant, because then obviously when the edible glue sets, it will be an awful lot more stable. They smell delicious, by the way. If you're using the Renshaws chocolate, it does actually smell of chocolate. It just smells absolutely delicious. And there we have him. Now, I'm at a different angle at the moment. I will show you what he looks like properly, but how cute does he look? Give it a try, guys. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas cake with edible antlers, and I will be back soon with an awful lot more new tutorials. Happy baking, everyone, and give him a go.